This video is sponsored by 28 Mobile. If you're looking for a Z Fold 2, Xiaomi Mix Fold, or maybe a Mi 11 Ultra, 28 Mobile has you covered. They have a wide selection of unlocked phones to choose from. Check them out at the link in the description. I remember when I first got my hands on the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 2 and how crazy excited I was. That phone literally stayed in my pocket. Even if it was dead, I would still carry it around as like a weird flex. Given that I've been using the Z Fold 2 for quite some time now, and with the Galaxy Z Fold 3 releasing later this year, I figured it's time to discuss my long-term use and experience with my first foldable phone. Before we dive in, I would greatly appreciate it if you could take a minute or two and answer a few questions. Are you interested in foldable tech? What about it has you interested? And which foldable devices interest you the most? Your answers are going to help me a ton when it comes to creating future content around foldable devices. The Galaxy Z Fold 2 is a great phone, and if I didn't have access to so many great phones, I could easily make it my main device. But it's a weird phone that blurs the lines between smartphone, phablet, and tablet. The thing is, it does this in such a way that it makes it a tough recommendation for normal smartphone, phablet, and tablet users. Let me explain. I think most smartphone users would agree that there is a perfect size to a phone, and for many, that perfect size is in between the iPhone 12 and the Galaxy S21 Plus. At the same time, I think most would agree that smartphones should be relatively thin, but by no means obsessively thin. In other words, there's no need to sacrifice things like battery life in order to reduce thickness. Phones should also be durable and be able to withstand everyday wear and tear that most modern phones can endure. To piggyback off of that, I think most would agree that if you need to second guess bringing your phone to a place that you really enjoy visiting frequently, such as the beach, then maybe that phone just isn't for you. Other factors for people looking to buy a phone are gonna come down to price, performance, and of course cameras. The Z Fold 2 has a weird design that's wedge-shaped with a decent-sized gap in between the interior displays. When it's closed, it's not a tall phone by any means, but it's thick, especially the top portion where the rear camera bump is. When looking at it compared to the Galaxy S21 Ultra with the case on, you can really get a feel for just how thick the Z Fold 2 is when it's closed. Of course, when it's fully opened, it's very thin, but no one is gonna be putting this in their pocket like this. The front screen is funny when coming from a traditional smartphone because of how narrow it is. However, I've grown to appreciate this narrow form factor. It makes texting, scrolling, and answering calls really easy with one hand. The Z Fold 2 is also a delicate phone. The outside of the phone is fine, although I do wish the back had the same Gorilla Glass Victus treatment as the front. Instead, the back is Gorilla Glass 6, which is still respectable, but considering the price of this phone, both sides should have been Victus, in my opinion. The inside display is the Achilles heel. Samsung opted for an extremely thin piece of glass combined with a screen protector that reminds me of the self-healing films that Zag sold a while back. Now, the ultra-thin flexible glass on the Z Fold 2 is an upgrade from the Z Fold 1 since the Z Fold 1 or Galaxy Fold 1 used a plastic display which dented and scratched extremely easy. But between the extremely soft screen protector and glass on the Z Fold 2, the interior display can still be scratched really easy. Even small indentations occur from just normal wear and tear, such as pressing too hard with your fingernail. When combined with the gap that I mentioned earlier, debris can easily get in between these displays, causing the screen to scratch even when it's closed. Factor in the lack of an IP rating, and now you must consider where you're going to be bringing your phone and how you store it. This is going to make a lot of people nervous, especially when you consider this is a $2,000 phone. Performance-wise, the Z Fold 2 is good. The Snapdragon 865 Plus has held up excellent over time, and even though the 888 is better and more capable, it wasn't around at the time the Z Fold 2 was released. The Fold 3 will fix this and make the internals more modern, and of course, make the phone even more capable, but as it stands, the Fold 2 is still an excellent performer. The biggest area I would like to see improved is battery life, since the battery does drain significantly when using the larger display, and even more so if you have it at 120 Hz. But again, I have a feeling the Fold 3 is going to fix this as well. Samsung did a fantastic job with optimizing their software for a foldable experience. Running apps side by side, multitasking, and consuming content is great. Flex mode is also useful and fun to use, but the app needs to support it in order to gain the benefits from it. Check out my Z Fold 2 tips and tricks video at the card above to learn more what this phone can do. The only issue I've encountered is updates, since foldables don't receive updates as fast or as routinely as the S and Note series, but they're still faster than some other smartphone manufacturers out there. As far as cameras go, they are good, and what you would expect from a flagship device, but they're not the best. In fact, I wouldn't even put the Z Fold 2 in top 10 best smartphone cameras. I know it's an older phone, but even the Note 20 Ultra is relevant and still holds a spot in the top 10. The camera experience, however, is really cool and it's super unique. It has some interesting features like the tracking mode. Additionally, being able to use the rear cameras for vlogging or selfies and have the outside display act as a viewfinder is pretty awesome. This can only be done when the phone is in tablet mode. So while the hardware isn't the greatest, it's still perfectly passable and has aged well since release, but it's the software experience that really makes this phone a lot of fun to use. So as a smartphone, it functions exactly how it should, but it lacks the compact nature and thinness of traditional smartphones. It's also much more delicate, and it causes you to second guess where you would be taking it or how you would be using it, which makes this phone a really hard recommendation for 90% of the smartphone users that I know. Factor in the $2,000 price point, and again, that takes off like another 5% from the user base that I know.
Because my friends are broke.
Looking at it from a phablet user perspective, you immediately must consider the king of all phablets, which is the Galaxy Note series. This has to do with the multitasking capabilities, which the Fold 2 has, and S Pen supports, which it doesn't have. The Fold 3 will supposedly fix this though, which I'm really excited about. Also, going back to the size, typically phablets are just oversized smartphones, but still have a normal smartphone thickness and are just as durable. As far as a tablet goes, well, it's just not there. Outside of having a slightly larger display and of course aspect ratio versus something like the Galaxy S21 Ultra, there really isn't any comparison to a true tablet. I think most people would rather a 10-inch tablet or bigger, since anything less is borderline phablet territory. Unless it's for a kid, in which the Fold 2 just isn't appropriate. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most people are completely okay having their phone and tablet experience separate, especially if it means carrying around a smaller phone in their pocket and saving them money in the process. Even though the Fold 2 is a convenient way of enjoying a smaller screen and a larger screen experience all in a single device, I just don't think the larger screen experience is a tablet replacement, at least not yet. Once the Fold 3 is released and it has better durability plus S Pen support, I'll reevaluate my stance, but for now, I know I couldn't give up my Tab S7 Plus just for the Fold 2. I think the Fold 2 is obviously a very niche phone. Initially, I thought it was for the enthusiast or people extremely passionate about smartphones and tech, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that's not entirely the case. A lot of tech junkies want as much crammed into a phone as possible, so not including things like a headphone jack, micro SD card slot, or the cameras from the Note 20 just doesn't really make sense. Then it hit me. The Fold 2 is for the modern businessman or the individual that has exquisite taste. Given the price of the Galaxy Z Fold 2, combined with all of the luxury additions and services it comes with, it makes perfect sense. Considering the people that I keep around me and their lifestyles being like mine, it makes even more sense on why I'm having such a hard time recommending this phone. It's still a tough recommendation for every single business person out there, when ultimately many still have the mindset of traditional smartphone users, and don't want anything bulky or fragile. If we were still traveling, I think it would have been in my pockets a lot more, but lately, being home more than not has me reaching for things like my Tab S7 Plus or iPad as a companion to my S21 Ultra and iPhone 12 Pro Max. In fact, for the cost of the Z Fold 2, you could purchase the S21 Ultra and a Tab S7, which completely fills the smartphone, phablet, and tablet void. Perhaps I'm crazy. If I am, let me know in the comments section, but if you agree with me, like this video. Like I said, foldables are the future, and I'll continue covering them, but as of now, I feel they are still in beta. And this is how products like this should be approached. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more just like it, make sure to subscribe and click that bell to be alerted whenever they go live. While you're at it, check out all of my other Samsung Galaxy videos. There's a lot of them, and I'm sure you can find one that you'll relate to or one that can benefit you. Other than that, I'll see those sweet cheeks in the next one.